I'm excited to chat with Mike McGuinness today. We first met back in '92 at PTC near Boston. At the time, I was a country manager for France and Southern Europe, and Mike was leading the sales organization in North America. With over 30 years of experience, Mike is a highly respected sales leader who has built and led top performing sales and customer success teams. Most recently, as Chief Commercial Officer at Quickbase, he helped grow ARR from under $150 million to over $275 million. Before that, at Veracode, he played a key role in doubling the company's sales. At Sophos, he helped scale revenue from $200 million to over $400 million in just 4 years. And going way back, as I mentioned, he was a pre-launch employee at PTC, where he was part of the team that took the company from zero to $800 million in revenue. Mike, great to have you here.
Hey, Darius, how are you? Long time no see.
Absolutely. What a pleasure to see you, and how I feel lucky to have a little bit of your time today so that you can share your experience with my audience and the alumni at the Infinite Sales Leadership and MEDDIC Academy. Thank you very much for giving me that time.
Yeah, happy to.
Let's talk a little bit about our new leadership course. And the leadership course is built around three ideas that appear like a circle or a cycle, starting with recruiting, obviously, which is the first step in order to build a team of A players, ideally, then to coaching, empowerment, development, and then optimization, and then restarting all over. What's your opinion about this cycle by itself?
My instinct when talking about sales leadership is to lean in on the word leadership. And if you take it at its base meaning, it means you lead, right? You're out front. You're the one leading the group. So if you picture, where I'm going from point A to point B, you don't know how to get there, or we don't know how to get there, but somebody's got to take the lead and decide which way we go. And so when I think about all of the things around the circle, recruiting, et cetera, you should be the one leading the team. And if you're a first line manager, of course you have an opening to fill, and you should be out. Should be the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, not the 10th. But if you're
example, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Leading by example, is that what you specifically had in mind, or?
Yeah, it's leading by example, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is not to lead by example. The purpose is to achieve the goal. A collateral benefit is that you are leading, others are seeing you. And if you think about, so recruiting is certainly one. If you're a VP of sales and you have a first line manager working for you, and that person has an opening, it's not once a week saying, hey, how are you doing on that recruiting? How many candidates do you have? To the extent you can, because you've been theoretically in the role or in the field more, hey, I know 3 people who might be good candidates, or I know 3 people who might know 3 people who would be good candidates. So I'm going to make those phone calls, and I'm going to try to help you fill your pipeline with quality candidates.
What criteria do you see for leadership? How do you consider a leader is doing the right job?
It is humility. It is working for the benefit of others. So you want your team to be successful, not you. Obviously you want the company to be successful, but you want the team and the team members to be successful, and you want them to feel that literally from the first interview.
Yeah.
That you are interested in making them successful. Sometimes that means a hard conversation, but the hard conversations are much easier to have when the person believes you have their best interests at heart.
Would you use the word servant leader?
Yes, except it might violate the humility part, but yeah, it goes in that direction. I'm acting with the best interest of others at heart. And of course, I have my own interest too, but I have confidence that if my team succeeds, I will succeed.
Exactly, serving the team for the ultimate goal of the success for the whole team, including the leader.
Yeah, and the classic example is in places where a new leader might be a hybrid leader. So a player coach kind of situation, and in comes a great new lead for an opportunity that looks like it could be pretty big and pretty fast. I want to see that 100% of the time going to a team member, not going to the the player coach. Frankly, I want the player coach taking the hard ones. That shows commitment to the team, confidence in their own capability, and they've got the right balance.
Got it. What else? Humility, working for others, helping.
I'd say being willing to get your hands dirty. And there's always the balance when you're a leader of not taking the wheel away from the person who works for you, but at the same time, being willing to take on the hard call, up to and including, working a troubling account for the company, almost becoming the account executive. Especially, actually, that's especially beneficial when you first join a company. There's been a couple times where I've been brand new to a company, know almost nothing about the products, pricing, packaging, all that, because you're still learning. But there's a customer who is at a high risk of churning, an existing customer, important, and you just show up and realize that they're in tough shape. And maybe there's an AE assigned, in which case you can work shoulder to shoulder. In a particular case I have in mind, there was no AE assigned, and I just took on the job of sales rep with that customer. And I think it did a few things. Ultimately, we ended in a positive outcome. It demonstrated to the team that I was capable. It obviously helped the company by keeping the customer in the boat. But I learned a lot, right? And I was in a position, actually, because I was new, to be gee, I'm the new guy. I didn't do anything to cause this. I don't know, what your problems are, but fill me in, and maybe we can solve them. And so it's a great way to enter a situation as a leader.
So let me recap that, or maybe ask you this way. In the course, I mentioned 3 words: hands-off leadership, hands-on leadership, and hands-in leadership. Yeah. So where do you see each of these applying, and what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, if that's a continuum, I'd probably want to try to be more in the hands-on, or I'd want people to feel that I was hands-off until they needed me, and then I was very willing to be hands-on. One thing I do tell people, though, or like early first-time managers, there's the balance. Are you a super seller, or are you a manager? And honestly, a lot of people say, "Oh, don't be a manager. You got to step back and let the troops, make their own mistakes," which may be the case. But when I see somebody step into that, when I think about myself, when I stepped into my first management role, I was a bit of a super seller, and that's okay, right? The salespeople, though, felt that we were working together. I wasn't taking the wheel, but we were working together on a deal, and they were comfortable with that. And it helps a company when you take one of your best sellers and make them a manager, and then they feel like they can't be hands-on anymore. You lose momentum as a company until the sellers under that manager really kind of get going, and sometimes they don't. Whereas if you can figure out how do we hand that off, where the new leader is a bit of a super seller, but over time they transition to that middle ground. What'd you call it? Hands-on leader, which is sort of in the middle, not hands-in, right? So it's okay if you're going to err at that point, err on the side of hands-in, but understand you want to get to hands-off. Hands-on. You want to get to the middle one, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, so there is no one size fit all. There are situations where you need to be each of these roles, playing each of these roles. And yeah. One thing that I'm hearing is that you cannot be the example as a leader if you never ever do hands-in. You have to, from time to time, do some real sales work, so that you can show how you do it. Otherwise you can't.
Yeah, you'll have to. And also, there are times where, let's take a situation where you've got an AE, a manager, and a VP. So you've got 3 layers of person. And you remember this from our days at PTC. There were times where one of those layers sort of had to burn themselves, right? They had to go in, they had to have a hard conversation with the customer or partner, and it moved the sale along or to a certain point. but that person was now not really welcome, at least for a little while, back into that situation. And so being willing to play that role is, you do it professionally, all that kind of stuff. You do have the chance to resurrect yourself later on, but there are times where you have to play that role, and it's better that you do it than if the AE does it. Depending on where you are in the management stack.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, can you share a couple of your experience or lessons in a situation where you take over teams? I know you have done that more than once. So, what's your process? How do you operate, and what do you recommend to new leaders in a new organization?
Yeah. So the first thing is show up and start to work, right? So I never showed up with a new team and said, okay, you guys are all out, and my team is now in. So you show up, you meet the new team, and you literally start to work. You do set up your cadence, right? Your operating rhythm. We're going to do forecast calls here, and you have the opportunity to edit what gets talked about and just how the company operates. But then you show up and you start to work. Mm-hmm. And people talk about a 30, 60, 90-day plan.
Yeah.
I usually I find that at 45 days, I know, right? So you show up, you start to work, you have this 30, 60, 90-day plan, but you get to day 45 and you know at least what step one is, right? Which might be, gee, this person really isn't a fit here, so we've got to make a change. We've got to go hire some other people to do this role. The comp plan is structured in a strange way, or the territories are not fairly allocated, or whatever. And at that point you start to say, okay, how am I going to? So the 30, 60, 90-day plan is kind of out the window at that point, and you come up with a new plan that says, all right, I know where I want to be, I know where I am. Now, what steps do I have to take to get there as quickly as possible without being too disruptive to the revenue flow of the company?
Great. And among the action items, what do you do? What are the top 3 things that you need to accomplish in those 45 days?
So every company's different. So in terms of what changes, they could be wide ranging. What changes are they could be near and dear to your heart. This company doesn't qualify well, right? So all right. So how do we up level our qualification capability? Again, it could simply be certain people in certain roles are not effective in those roles. And so what changes can we or do we have to make to up level those people? And I use the word up level maybe too freely there. It's just different skill set,
right?
Different knowledge base. Sometimes I just need I need a person with a new fresh look. I know you talk a lot about purpose. I need someone. The person who's in there has lost their connection to the purpose of this company, and I need someone who's going to come in and feel like I understand and I can get behind the purpose of this company or this product. And so those kinds of changes can happen. In terms of the what do I do in those 45 days? It's go to work. I sit in on calls. I sit in on I go meet customers. I pick up deals. If there are some deals that are in particular trouble, I get involved. Mm-hmm. And that's a great opportunity because the customer actually appreciates it. Hey, I'm talking about when I joined as a new CRO. So, hey, here's a C-level executive who has decided to show up, form a relationship with me, and listen to what my concerns are and try to solve them. And customers really appreciate that and being able to form that bond early on in your tenure. So it's literally it's just I am sitting on the floor or close to the sales floor. I'm listening to what's going on. I'm meeting people and talking to them in the cafeteria, just understanding what is the ticking heartbeat of this company.
Is it fair to call it the assessment phase?
It is. It's an assessment, but I'm not filling out a form, right? And the assessment is different with every company.
Exactly.
So
and based on the assessment, then you enroll or deploy whatever actions that you consider appropriate in this case. You mentioned that maybe a company has an issue with qualification. You go with MEDDIC or MEDDIC. The company may have issues with product training. You apply those things. Is that what you do? I guess in the second half of those 90 days.
Yeah, too many times I find companies have comp plans that are just too complicated, too confusing. The funny story, I joined one company on the day of kickoff. So it was literally new year. Here's the kickoff. I showed up. It was my first day, and as the CRO, and the CEO said, "Hey, listen, your predecessor left a few months ago. So I and the CFO had to put this program together, the structure, and the comp plan, everything. And so we need you. You're showing up on day one. We need you to get behind it, to be supportive and say, yes, this is the plan." So I showed up and I absolutely did that. 100%. This is the structure. This is the plan. It's going to be great. And literally at day 45, I grabbed the CEO and the CFO and said, we got to make some changes. And because at that point, the comp plan was just too confusing. And there were elements in it that a seller just wasn't going to embrace. And it had the company sort of spinning in circles. Significant parts of the company were spinning in circles because of that. And you know what? They were 100% supportive in saying, yeah, you're right. Let's do that. And so then we sat down and said, okay, we're 2 months into the first quarter. We're going to finish Q1, and then on day one of Q2, we're going to roll these changes out.
I see. That's amazing. Let's move on to the. Let's talk a little bit about the recruiting. When you have to either add additional team members, managers, or individual contributors, what are the top criteria that count for you? What are you looking for before anything else in a new team member?
Yeah. So first thing I look at is a history, right? So give me, and today's a wonderful thing. Give me your LinkedIn profile. I don't have to get a CV or anything like that. And then I like to start where they are and go backwards and say, all right, well, why did they make this decision, and why did they join this company? And I'm looking for some simple things. If it's 1 year, or 1 year, 18 months, 1 year, 24 months, then I start to wonder why. If they have what I don't worry about is if they have 5 years at company A, 1 year at company B, 4 years at company C, no problem. Company B, we all make mistakes, right? So and you can usually look and see, oh, they followed a colleague there, or wow, yeah, that looked like a rocket ship of a company that didn't quite work out. Whatever, you can understand what the decision process was.
You assess their judgment. You assess how they can assess to make decisions properly.
Yeah, and it's both company and position.
Okay. Yep.
So if I'm hiring an AE and I see somebody who was a BDR, then became an AE, and then went back to being a BDR, or went into marketing, or went into customer success, and now they're applying for an AE job. I wonder, do they really want to be an AE, or is there something about AE that they don't like, so they keep looking for other roles within companies?
Absolutely. What else? Do you consider the experience in the industry? I know that at PTC, at least in France, I didn't have that as a criteria. I'm sure it was the same thing in the US at the time. But do you have that criteria of not necessarily besome from the industry or otherwise?
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by industry. But you're right. At PTC, we used to say hire the athlete, right? Meaning, you can't teach speed, right? So hire the fast person, hire the tall basketball player, whatever. And then we'll teach them the game, right? Hire the great rugby player. We'll teach them how to play American football.
Yeah.
And I still believe that is hire the skill set, because if you've got somebody with a great skill set but doesn't really understand, then I'll use air quotes here, industry. 6 months from now, they'll now understand the industry and still have the great skill set. Whereas hire somebody who's got good industry knowledge but a weaker skill set. 6 months from now, they'll still have the industry knowledge and they'll still have the weaker skill set. So I would go with that always. Now, you talked about the industry. What I'm meaning is a particular segment of the technology industry. So if I would have a hard time, not always, but I'd have a hard time if somebody was selling, I don't know, home heating oil. I'd have a hard time being confident they could make the shift to selling SaaS software, unless it was SaaS software to home heating oil companies, which is a different thing. So I kind of look into that. But if somebody's selling, like we did, engineering software, and now they want to talk about selling software to the trucking industry, I'd hire the athlete in that case.
Right. For the anecdote, I remember at PTC, I hired the guy who was first in a CPG industry. He was selling Schweppes drinks to markets, to
stores,
to the stores, and he had no clue about CAD or design or what.
That's a big leap. How do you do?
He became very successful because he has this grit of being successful. He wanted to win. He wanted to learn, and he was funny at the beginning, asking questions which were not the right questions because he didn't understand what we were doing. But he learned.
Well, that brings us to another area of recruiting where that person was curious, right? They weren't afraid to ask a question. And I see this too much these days where sellers feel like they have to be an expert in a particular field in order to go on a call and try to sell a particular product. And you don't, right?
Yes.
Use common sense.
Yes.
And ask a question. Well, hey, I'm new to this space. How do you do it today? And that, that's an okay question. You don't have to know how they do it.
Right. One of the very first questions I ask, even today when I meet with a new prospect, no matter what they're doing, I like the question, what problem do you solve for your customers? If someone understands what problem we're solving for our customers, that any salesperson with any background with a regular IQ can understand this, and then if they can articulate it, we are done.
Yep, that's great.
Great. So what are one thing I see, and I would like to know your take on this. I have sometimes in my sessions, I see all sorts of leaders, sales leaders, those who attend with the team and are not very active, but they are listening and they are participating regularly. And I have two extremes, those who don't even participate because they consider that's the training for their sellers and they are not even there. And those who almost co-facilitate with me, who come and they are very active and take examples. So what is your recommendation to sales leaders?
So whenever I was in a situation like that, I would sit at one of the front corners of the table. So if you think of a long conference table, again, I don't know how big the group is, but if it's a long conference table, you're standing in front. There's a screen up there. I'm at the front corner, right or left, where I can sit in a way where I can see you and the slides, but I also can see down the table. And
love it.
And I'm more than 50% of the time I'm looking down the table, and I'm looking at the faces of the participants. And I'm looking for questions or question marks in their looks, or when the light bulb goes off above their head. I don't hesitate to participate, although I try not to take over the room. But if I feel like something needs to be hit again, then I'll hey Darius, hang on a second. You just said this. Say that again, or what did you mean by that? Or Joe down the table, what did you hear there? And is there an example in your company or in your prospects where you're having that experience?
Fantastic, I love it. Yes, that's great. Another question, Mike. At least in the past few decades, after our common experience as PTC, there are a lot of tools, automation, software tools, and salespeople are facing both tools and even now AI. And at the same time, there are skills. What's your take on these two? If, for instance, there are some stuff automated in Salesforce to help them with some stuff, do you like them, or do you think that it's removing the skills from the sales reps and they are not understanding why the tool is recommending this? What's your take on this?
So it's an interesting question. I think more and more. So selling is all about pipeline. Pipeline is all about prospecting. So everybody prospects. I don't have a lot of time for sales people who sit back and say, "All right, where are my leads? Put me on the phone with a customer and I'll close them. But otherwise, I don't have anything else to do." So prospecting is important. I think the days of the sort of high velocity sequence-based prospecting are either over or are in a pause right now, where because customers are by and large not answering their email, especially for more generic sequence-based type emails.
Right.
So selling and prospecting, especially selling to the enterprise, is now is deeply personal, right? So you need to engage with a customer, and it might not be face to face right away, but you need to engage in a deeply personal way. I'm excited about some of the AI tools that are out there because, so first of all, the email, hey, I'm just going to bump this up to the top of your inbox. That should have a circle with a line through it, right? That's lazy prospecting. You've written one email, you sent it to me. I haven't responded, so you're going to just send me the same one again. But you're afraid I'll notice it that it's double, so they just say, hey, bumping it up to the top of your email. What might get me eventually in that kind of a thing is well-targeted, tailored, personal emails that are different each time, with a connection between the goals of my goals, the goals of my company, and something going on in the industry that would be of interest to me. And so leveraging AI and tools like that to be able to break down that type of approach. I was talking to a company that had a big sled focus, and an interesting thing that a comment that they made is they were selling to state and local governments. Every committee meeting of every even little town meeting in the little town that I live in, the minutes are published, and so you can leverage AI to consume those minutes and understand what are the issues of the planning and zoning board of town XYZ. And which of these counselors cares the most about this particular issue, because you can break down the notes, and then approach that person with a personal series of engagement methods of engagement, whether it's email or voicemail or whatever, all of which are things you should not stop using, but you should use more efficiently. And then I'm finding companies are seeing more success when they get face to face in IRL, in real life, with customers. So it's worth figuring out how to get them, how to make it worth their while, either to meet with you or to go to a dinner or to track you down at your booth at a certain trade show. Those kinds of things are the customers want to do that, and that will help you be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I strongly believe that some of these tools can be dangerous, and people should focus a lot on sales skills. Among sales skills is building relationships, and building relationships obviously is much easier when we have face to face. I mean, phone is better than email, video call is better than phone, and in person is better than video call.
Yeah.
We met at PTC. So at the time you were running the US. You were head of sales in the US when I started in France. And you were in one of my onboarding trainings. And by the way, I remember something that I took away from that session with you that stayed with me for all those years at PTC. You had put in a very synthetic way the formula for success. That was the title of that one pager. And it was the activity based. And one of the things that I mentioned in my leadership is that there's no excuse to not achieve your activity goals. The result goals, we need to discuss with your leader and your coach why, despite activity, you're not achieving the results. But the activity shouldn't be. So the formula of success was initially starting with the activity. Statistically successful salespeople at PTC have done this, do this, then we talk about it. And I had it, 4 demos a week, 10 meetings a week, and things like that. And I had it printed on my wall, and every sales rep in my team had to do the same, because that was what we were covering during the meeting. So that's where we met initially. The first time we met, that was one of your first most important experiences, I guess, in your career. But you have been a CRO for over 30 years, revenue from $0 to $800 million at companies such as PTC, and always running GTM teams, building teams, coaching, and the way we're talking about it in Infinite Sales Leadership, building, coaching, and optimizing. Companies like Sophos and Veracode are some other companies that you joined after PTC. Did I miss anything big?
What I like to say is I've had every job in the sales stack, including I was the CEO of 2 different startups for 7 years. And I do include the CEO as part of the sales stack. And yeah, I mean, I've had the great luck to lead some strong sales organizations at some good companies with a number of exits, ranging from if you count PTC, where we were in 1998, I think we hit a $9 billion market cap, and that was back when $1 billion meant something. And then Sophos had a great exit. Veracode had 2 great exits, and most recently I was at Quickbase, where and now I'm doing sort of sales advising and coaching, go to market coaching on my own, because it's that time of my life. You mentioned I've been at this for over 30 years, and it's good to be in control of my own time.
Absolutely. And you are also sitting as a board member in a few companies in the past and even present.
Correct. Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mike. It was really a pleasure to having you on this call and sharing your experience with my team. I hope we'll have more opportunities to do this again.
Yep. Good luck. Yeah, keep me posted, and yeah, let me know how I can help.